Alright, welcome to Beyond Quick Tips powered by Astro Gaming. My name is Jared Dunphy, and today I have a strafe guide for Halo 5. I've already done a strafe guide for Halo the Master Chief Collection, but that applied to Halo 1 through 4, and it's a pretty general guide, and there are some specific things that you can do in Halo 5, so I'm going to be doing a guide all over again. I'll go over the basic stuff just in case you missed it, and I'll also go over the things that are exclusive to Halo 5. So let's just jump right into it and go into what a standard strafe is. Basically, a standard strafe, or just strafing in general, is moving around to make it very difficult for your opponent to kill you. You can potentially dodge shots, you can make it more difficult for your opponent to aim, so it's just moving around. Typically, you'll just see people move left and right. Before I go into the other strafes, by the way, you'll hear a lot of old school Halo players or competitive Halo players talk about a mechanic called strafe acceleration. Basically, what that means is when you're going from one distance or one direction to another, like for example going left to right, you slow down a little bit when you're changing your direction. So in some games like Quake or Unreal Tournament or whatever, the strafe acceleration is basically non-existent. You're moving very, very fast at all times. You're basically going at full speed at all times. But in Halo 5, it's a lot better. It's a lot smoother than the other games. For example, Halo 3 had a lot of strafe acceleration. It was very clunky in that regard. So anyways, going into the strafes, like I said before, we have a standard strafe where it's just moving around, but there's more specific ones, and I'll go over the two basic ones, and then we'll go into some more advanced stuff. So the first one is called a short strafe. It's pretty simple. You're just moving left and right in very short movements. And this is really good at short range because, well, let me use this barrel as an example. When you're really close to somebody and you're making these short movements, they move really far around, like on your screen, relative to your view. So at long range, and this is applying to a long strafe, if this guy just wiggles a little bit, he's still in my sights. I'm still going to get those shots in. So when you consider things like auto aim and bullet magnetism, you can't do that. You can't do a short strafe at long range. So basically the idea is, and if you kind of forget these things, this is a great way to explain it. At short range, you want to do a short strafe. At long range, you want to do a long strafe. But don't make it too predictable. Throw in a short strafe here and there or whatever just to throw off your opponent. So those are the basic strafes, short strafes and long strafes. And I guess technically you can have a medium strafe as well, but that's more like a blend between the two. So anyways, let's go into the more advanced stuff. The next one is a pretty old school strafe going all the way back to, I think, Halo 2. It's called a strong side strafe or a stop strafe. So basically, you go left and right like normal, but you stop, and then you start moving again. Now, the cool thing about this is when you do a stop strafe, you have the option of going left again or right again. Because usually if you're, say, going right, then they're going to expect you to go left. But with a stop strafe, you can go right, stop, go right again. And it really messes them up because especially if you're slowing down for a second, they might anticipate you on going in a different direction, but you're actually continuing your strafe. It's just that little stop can completely throw them off. So, say for example, you're tracking somebody's movements, and I'm using my view as an example here. So you're tracking somebody's movements and you're watching them go right, and then they stop, and then you go left, but they start going right again. That completely throws off your aim, and you have to make up a lot of distance here with your sights. So once again, stop strafe or strong side strafe is just stopping in the middle of your strafe and then going again. Pretty simple. The next one is a very, very common strafe you'll see in Halo 5. It's called a crouch strafe. And this is where you just tap crouch while you're moving around. This causes your head to duck. And basically you can be in somebody's sights and then crouch, and then all of a sudden they're gonna shoot right over your head and not do any damage at all. They're not getting the belly shot, they're not getting an arm shot, they're just completely missing because you're ducking underneath their shots. But some people, they do this they do it way too fast, so their head doesn't really move that much, so they still get damaged. So what you want to do is you kind of want to crouch, and this is something that's a little bit more advanced in a way. When you're in these fights, typically people shoot as fast as possible because if you take your time, say you line up the headshot, shoot, line up the headshot, shoot, your damage per second or your time to kill is very, very long. So you want to just keep shooting as fast as possible, right? So if you keep that in mind and you're watching an opponent and you can get an idea of how fast they're shooting, you want to try to duck right before they shoot. and you'll be able to dodge those shots. You'll see this quite often where you see two players fighting, and they'll be shooting at each other, and then right before their opponent gets that final shot for the kill, say I have no shields and they need that final headshot for the kill. So right before they get that final headshot, I'll jump and then thrust back to make them miss. So just keep that in mind. We're doing a crouch strafe, or if you're using your thruster pack, you need to time it. Don't just press it to do it. Try to time it to avoid a shot. And then finally, we have something called a circle strafe. So basically, you want to hold your stick forward all the way to the plastic on your controller, on the very edge. And by doing this, you can have a very erratic, S-shaped strafe, or you can keep going around in circles. But the cool thing about this is you maintain your momentum. I talked about strafe acceleration, and when you're doing these erratic movements, you're maintaining your momentum, and it's very, very difficult to predict where the person's going to go. So basically, like I said, the name really explains it all. It's a circle strafe. You're just constantly moving your stick in circles or kind of S shapes, and it will cause your opponent to not know what direction you're going. And since you're moving ahead and moving backwards, it also makes it difficult for them to land those headshots, especially at long range. So those are the core strafes. You'll hear a lot of people talk about some other ones, and I'm sure there will be some comments about how I didn't talk about some certain strafes. And some of them don't apply to Halo 5, or they're not useful in Halo 5, or some of them are very connection reliant. You'll hear something called a strafe, which is just basically taking advantage of how online play works and lag. You will never see a strafe on LAN because it just does not work. So those are the core strafes that you can do in Halo 5 right now. Once again, there are some other things you can do. The Gandhi hop, I don't really consider that a strafe, but I already did a video on that if you want to check that out. But yeah, once again, there are a ton of other things you can do to avoid taking damage from your opponents, and I'll probably go into some other topics in the future on how to, just do some general combat. So that's all I really have for this episode of Beyond Quick Tips, guys. If you have any questions about these strafes or have any suggestions for other episodes of Beyond Quick Tips, be sure to let me know in the comment section below, and thank you so much for watching.